A final question from Yasmina from the Lebanon.
Good morning. As we all know, last weekend there were 2 terrorist attacks, one in Beirut, one in Paris. As a Lebanese, I can tell you that I was actually more shocked and surprised by the attack in Paris. I was devastated about Beirut, but it didn't surprise me. But what happened in Paris really scared me. It now seems like nowhere is safe in the world. What I want to ask you is, what is our generation expected to do in the face of terror that's never really been dealt with before? Mm-hmm. And how can we talk about a secure world when the greatest powers in the world can't seem to know how to control a problem like ISIS?
Right question. Yeah. Thank you for your question. And recently we've had many terrorist attacks. Apart from the constant killing that is going on in the region, in Syria, in Iraq, we've had the attacks in Turkey, we've had the attacks in Lebanon, we've had the one in Paris, we've had the Russian plane crash. And this really are serious events which creates the impression that terrorism is really spreading its wings everywhere and nowhere is safe. That is also what the terrorists want us to know. Their strategy is to instill fear, to intimidate, and we should make sure they do not succeed. And not only we should make sure they do not succeed, we should also not fool around with our own values. Values of freedom, values of liberty, values of freedom of expression, association. And because when this happens, and the government's promises security, they often want a trade-off. They sometimes tell us, you have to give up a bit of your freedom for security. And in my judgment, it's a very slippery slope. We have to be careful that there's very little, in my judgment, trade-off between security and liberty. If you are asked to give up your liberty for security, and you do give up that liberty, do you in the end have security? In fact, if you do that, the terrorists have won. They've changed your norms, their values, and are pushing you in a direction that you do not want to go. When we talk of our biggest power in the world not able to contain ISIS or Daesh, it's a very delicate situation in the sense that you have a group of people who are working at the country level, at the national level, community level, who are prepared to use any means to instill their will and fear in the people. You have a situation where the biggest power you're talking about doesn't want to put troops on the ground, doesn't want to take the risk of inflaming the situation in the region, and is therefore relying on partner troops to win the war. Those partner troops are non-existent. In fact, the only key, when you take the Western side, the only key fighters they have are the Kurds and the Peshmergas. The Peshmerga has proven to be an effective fighting force. They have not been able to rely on the Iraqi army. In fact, some even would tell you that the Shia militia in Iraq are much more effective than the army that the US has spent billions on. So you have a problem, and you cannot do it from the air alone. You need to have people on the ground. On the other side, the Russian attempt can be a game changer, because not only are they bombing, but they have allies with troops on the ground. Which are these troops? The Syrian army, Hezbollah, and the Iranian presence. So they can clean up after their bombing. But the idea is not for them to bomb to take territory, but I hope to change the equation and get everybody back to the table to find a solution to the misery and the terrible things taking place in the region. But what I will plead with all of you It's not to be afraid. It's easier said than done. I mean, I faced this at one time in my career when Bin Laden put a price on my head because of East Timor. I pushed very hard for the independence of East Timor, and he claimed that this criminal, Kofi Annan, has broken apart the largest Islamic state in the world by taking East Timor away from Indonesia, and therefore he must be punished. And there will be X amount of gold if you do that. Of course, then you decide, do I withdraw or do I keep on with my life and my work? And if I withdraw and get cowed, what happens to the problems I'm dealing with? The people who are looking to me for leadership, the people who expect me to stand up for some of the problems that they are facing. And so, yes, we need to be careful. We need to be conscious of our environment constantly and not take undue risks. But we should not be intimidated to the extent that we cease to live or give our leaders a free hand to take some of our liberties away, promising in exchange security. I've seen many situations where governments have promised security, where they have put in where they've been repressive, and things seem very stable. In the end, repression is not stability. Down the line, it explodes. Thank you very much.